Okay, it's 6 o'clock. It's time for us to get started. Hereby call the meeting of November 7th Board of Education meeting to order. We do have a quorum. Ms. Anderson's not able to join us tonight, but we have everyone else. Okay. Next, I'm going to call on Mr. Peace to give our invocation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let us vow for an invocation, please. Father, we thank you for another opportunity together here to discuss the business of the Granville County Public School System. We ask that all that's here in the sound of my voice will be able to do those things that's pleasing in your sight and will benefit of the children that we serve. We ask you to stand by us and go with us as we stand by these things. These and all things we ask in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Okay, I'd like to call on our Vice Chair, Amanda Lebrecht, who's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I do believe we have come to the time where we are going to be swearing in our new board member. And I guess we'll just call Dr. Frederick to the podium. And
Judge Caroline Burnett,
Exactly.
will you please report to the podium?
Discharge the duties of your office as member of the Granville County Board of Education, so help you God.
Thank you very much.
Keep going. Us lawyers like to misshave the judge's kids, so she likes all kinds of copies.
I just wanted to get my signature for this semester.
Sometimes a day, I hate it. Take his spot.
So Dr. Frederick, on behalf of the children and the educators in Granville County Public Schools, the first gift we'd like to bestow you with this evening is that famous star pin. You're part of the team now, and here is your pin to represent who we are and what we stand for. The next part of the gift is right here. We hope it's something you could use, probably even tonight, but we just want to say welcome aboard. And at this time, we're going to take you to your new humble abode.
Dr. Frederick, you certainly have a good fan club.
Thank you. I
It's
think so,
always
too.
good to have support. Okay. We've come to the item for adjustment to the agenda. Are there any adjustments?
There are no adjustments to
Okay,
tonight's agenda,
great.
Madam Chairwoman.
And now we come to the favorite part of the night, always, is that's when we have special recognitions and presentations. Dr. McLean?
Absolutely. I'm so excited about this first presentation tonight. This is rare, and it's new, and it's exciting because it's coming to our school district. So Dr. Winborn, please let me turn this over to you about our electric buses.
Thank you, Dr. McLean, and good evening, Madam Chairwoman and members of the board. I'd like to ask Dr. Chris Ham, our Director of Transportation, to come to the podium. Dr. Ham did not waste any time in his new role in seeking out and obtaining a nearly $1 million grant, or series of grants, I believe it is, for the procurement of new electric buses to our fleet. This grant also includes charging station for these buses, and this is just the beginning to take us into the 22nd century. So, Dr. Ham, if you would just take a moment and tell us a little bit more about this project and where you see it going for us.
Great, thank you. We're really excited about this opportunity. When you looked at all the grants that were received, there were only about 40 electric buses across the entire state. So for us to be able to get 2 here in our district is just phenomenal. It's a great partnership with Duke Energy. We're getting our charging station for free and the infrastructure that goes with that. So we're very excited about this opportunity and what that's going to bring for us. Also, there is a propane powered bus that was put in that situation as well. So we're going to have some different alternative fuel buses come into the district probably late spring to start next school year. So we're just excited about the opportunity. Thank you.
We're so proud of you, Dr. Ham.
And next is recognition of Wilton Elementary School Lighthouse Award. I skipped one.
That's all right.
I'll do it next. Okay.
Dr. Winborn, let's go ahead and recognize Wilton Elementary School.
Absolutely, we'll do that one next. As many of you know, Wilton Elementary School has an incredible program called The Leader in Me, and this is part of their choice offering for their elementary school. And they have a proud history of really taking this to the limit. So this time I'd like to ask the staff of Wilton Elementary School to approach the podium, if you would please. And I believe, is Principal
Yeah, there she
Ms.
is.
Wilson here? Yes.
Yes, she
And
is.
would former Principal Sheila Atkins also please come to the podium?
Incredible.
Yes. Come on up, ladies and gentlemen. You can see on board docs there's a nice photograph of the administrative team along with some of the student leaders celebrating this recent recognition as a 2022 Leader in Me Lighthouse Academic Honor Roll School. And this represents quite a bit of work on the school's part, as well as, outstanding academic achievement. So the
Absolutely.
school is to be commended on their achievement in this respect. So let's give them all a big round of applause this evening. Now I'm going to turn it over to current principal and former principal to offer a few remarks, and any other staff members that would like to share what this means to the school and the children at the school.
As the former principal, this recognition is very, very rewarding, considering all the hard work that goes into ensuring that our students become future leaders, and also the staff. The staff is tremendous. Their hard work plays a part in this as well. So just continue to keep up the good work and make me proud.
I just want to say, stepping in as the new principal, I'm excited about all the great things that Wilton has in store. I appreciate and commend Ms. Atkins about all of her hard work. As she passed the torch, she's got some big shoes to fill, but we're ready to take on the challenge.
Any other staff members like to share what this means for the children at your school? Well, I know the community is very, very proud, and this is certainly something to celebrate. It's quite an accomplishment. So let's give them all another big round of applause.
Those Wilton Wildcats are downright amazing. Thank you all so very much for coming this evening. This is an incredible honor, academic honor roll. Thank you so very much. Madam Chair.
Yes, I apologize for getting those in the wrong order, but between my distance glasses and my reading glasses, I just got a little confused there. But anyway,
all right.
Our next item, we're very happy about this too, is our Granville County Schools Deputy of the Year.
We are so excited about this award. We have some amazing school resource officers and deputies in our school district, and we're going to honor one at this time. So, Dr. Winborn, will you please bring our next honoree forward?
Yes, I'd like to ask Ms. Jessica Laws to approach the podium. And Sheriff John Hardy, if you would come up as well, sir, to stand at her side. So for those of you that are joining virtually and are here tonight, we hope that you know and appreciate how much our school resource officers do for our schools and for the students every single day. It is, they are an integral part of our school family, and they have incredibly powerful relationships with the children and the staff at our schools. So they are not only our guardians and our protectors, but they're also part of our family.
Yes.
And Ms. Jessica Laws, of course, is right there at the top. She's been with us, I think, almost just about as long as most of our SROs in service to our school district. And we were extremely proud to learn that she was named the Granville County Sheriff's Department Deputy of the Year. And so, Ms. Laws, we thank you, we appreciate you, and all that you do. So let's give her a huge round of applause. I don't know if you would like to share any comments about what it means to be an SRO in our schools. I know a couple of your principals are here tonight, and or former principals too.
I'm just very blessed to serve the wonderful children of Granville County. Thank you.
Well, we're blessed to have you.
We are.
So
We
thank
are.
you.
Thank you so much, dear.
Thank you.
I think that concludes our recognitions this evening, and we are so excited about each and every one of them.
Okay, our next item is our superintendent's report.
Thank you so much, Chairwoman Williams. Good evening to you, all of our board members, educators, students, guests, and friends who are with us in person and tuning in. I would like to congratulate once again all of our red carpet honorees and to welcome aboard our newest board member, Dr. Frederick. Our district has been extremely busy with blending learning, fun, field trips, and creativity this past month. This past week, I was extremely grateful to have had the opportunity to meet with students, teachers, and principals for our first round of ambassador sessions. These proved to be most informative and extremely insightful. I would like to thank all who participated in representing their schools. The perspectives were not only appreciated, but greatly respected, for feedback to me is a gift. We will be meeting with our parent ambassadors this Thursday evening at 5 p.m. That is a change in time because we have some other things going on, but our parent ambassadors will meet this Thursday evening at 5 p.m. Please be on the lookout for something from Ms. Alston Shave. Our 35th annual Student of Merit ceremonies have gone exceptionally well, thanks to our outstanding pupils, parents and guardians, and educators. We thank all of our students who work hard daily to keep the main thing the main thing. And I would like to encourage all of those youngsters to stay committed and stay the course. Your devotion to your academics will pay off. And to our parents and guardians, thank you for your support. I also want to thank our Granville Ed Foundation for an extraordinary in-person celebration this year. Our school and county teams were outstanding. The costumes were amazing, and, well, Wilton Elementary School won that Spirit Award again. I am extremely proud, however, of our Board of Education team, which consisted of Daisy Duck Williams, Mina Mouse LeBrecq, and Mickey Mouse McKnight. They did a great job, and it was truly a night of neighborly fun and great. It was fantastic for all. It is with an array of emotion I now segue into acknowledging the extremely difficult work our Board of Education members have undertaken the last 6 weeks. As the result, we have sitting before you a full board at full capacity for the first time in many weeks. I publicly want to thank each of you for your hard work, devotion, and diligence. Now, since we last met, we have held some amazing events. We've honored our retirees with over 420 years plus of service to our district. We've had amazing literacy nights, a successful fall wellness day, several English language learner parent and family nights, as well as 2 kitchen table conversations, and at that, those were designed to garner feedback, but in an open, safe space for employees and parents. We have also held some really neat Title I nights and most informative AIG night, as well as emphasized Red Ribbon Week and illuminated the importance of keeping drugs out of the hands of our children and schools. Let's all make certain to talk about the dangers of drugs, drug use, and abuse. This is important for all ages. October was also Bullying Prevention Month, and each school designed special efforts for their school community to address bullying. Yes, that national issue of bullying. We don't want it, and we want bully-free schools, and we're asking everyone in our community to assist us with that matter. I would also like to thank our school resource officers and law enforcement partners for all of their assistance with safety concerns as they have arisen in the last few weeks. Take a look at this short video to show you what's been going on in our school system. Just a few photos there. I am also grateful for the continued air quality work which we invest in for safety of our students and our staff. Currently, we are focused on one of our middle schools and are awaiting results for retesting. As always, we will jump into action by testing, cleaning, removing people from certain areas, posting results, and remaining as transparent as possible. Safety will always be our top priority. We are now in the second marking period of the year, and first semester academic parent-student conferences are wrapping up. This year, parents had a choice to attend in person or virtually, and of course, that has not ended. If you need to meet at any time for any reason, please just reach out and feel free to contact us. Finally, I would like to thank our school nurses for assisting our local health department with giving flu shots to our employees this year. This service was greatly appreciated. I've asked all of our schools to remain cutting edge and innovative. To that end, we sent a team of young people to participate in TIP's Spark Experience last week, and we cannot wait to hear about all the creative thinking and learning and developments on the horizon in fields of technology, engineering, and high tech. Please don't forget, tomorrow is a remote learning day, and this Friday is a holiday. We are encouraging everyone to have a safe Thanksgiving break, November 23rd through 25th. This concludes my remarks this evening.
Thank you, Superintendent. Okay, the next item is the remarks from the chair. On behalf of the Board of Education, I would also like to thank and welcome each of you for your attendance tonight, as well as those viewing our meeting on live stream. As we can see from the special recognitions, there are a lot of positive things happening in our school system. Again, congratulations to all the honorees. But I would be remiss not to express appreciation for all of our educators, staff, and volunteers who work tirelessly to move our students forward. We are also excited to see ongoing parental involvement initiatives throughout our school system. It would take too long to name them all, but a couple of examples would be West Oxford Elementary School's All-Pro Dad's Breakfast and Mount Energy's Muffins with Mom. The board has many challenges ahead, but the board continues to be focused on the academic growth of our students and school safety issues. Board members have been very busy these past few weeks attending programs and special events throughout the school system. October was Principals Month. Principal Appreciation Month. The chair spent a couple of days stopping by each of our schools to thank principals for all they do each and every day for students. I also enjoyed watching two of our women's high school volleyball teams compete. Those are intense matches, and it was quite fun, and it was quite exciting too. Attending the 7th grade Holly Student of Merit and Honor Roll program was inspiring. Watching students, parents, and teachers cheer for the academic success of such a large group of students was awesome. And this past Thursday, I joined the kitchen table conversation at West Oxford Elementary School, where community and administrators could give their input and feedback on Granville County Public Schools' existing strategic plan. Afterwards, I had the pleasure of attending the fall concert at South Granville High School, which was simply wonderful. Dr. McLean, Dr. Winborn, Board Member Helen Lindsay, and myself also attended the swearing in of the new county manager on October 17th and welcomed him to Granville County, and we really look forward to working with Mr. Cummings. That concludes my remarks. Would any other board members like to share information at this time about some of their activities?
I would like to, Chairperson Williams. I've made it one of my personal goals as a new board member to visit all the schools here in Granville County. And I must say that I visited about 8 schools thus far, Buttonstem Elementary, Cradle, and Stovall Shaw. Those schools were just adorned with student work, very rich environments, positive statements, and I observed teachers enjoy teaching and also kids enjoy learning. And when I talked to all of the teachers here, principals in these schools here, they had one common thread here, and that was they were preparing right now, trying to improve the proficiency of students in reading and in math. It's ongoing, they're not waiting to June. They're doing it ongoing right now. I went to 2 of the middle schools here, Northern Granville, where I have a class presentation. The kids were outstanding, they was on task, they asked questions here, and they were on target. Also visited Putnam Middle School today here. School was very inviting. Kids were on task. Principal was out in the building here trying to make sure they were following rules and regs here. They called down. They adhered to the voice of the principal. They did not try to retaliate. Did not show any type of opposition there. And they also, as well, they also trying to improve reading and math school. They've been very, very creative and using their time to pull people all areas of school here to make sure that we can reach those marks by the end of the school year. One thing I did observe when I visited Northern Granville and Phoenix Academy about setting goals here, when I asked the kids, give me a goal you're trying to achieve. even after I prompt them, the students here, they had a hard time to come up with a goal here. Career exploration here. Kids are not, I don't know what's being the lack here, they have not been creative and think about goals after high school. Now, where I sit here is that when we have goals in mind here, in our lifetime goals here, keep us on task in trying to reach those goals. So somehow or another, we have to inspire kids to look beyond today and prepare for tomorrow by thinking about goals they want to achieve. A fireman, police officer, military here, and also soft skills that they can also achieve here by going to advanced ground here. They need to know that outside the classroom here is where real life begins. So we need to make sure that we tap into our counselors, our social workers here, all those people here that our kids interface with each and every day here to make sure that they are been inspired to reach big dreams here. I went to the high school here, Dr. Fuga. He has really made a presence in Webb High School. Kids come by, pull off a hood, they don't try to say, no, I'm not doing that. They pull it off there. He said, if you need me, come see me. So really, he has really kind of got his feet wet into my old school, Webb High School here. I think he's doing a great job there as well here. Had a chance to visit also Dr. Allen's school today as well here. She had time to spend with me as well. She had on her board as well her 5 stars there, relationship, leadership in the school as going to the building there. She had a world of them on the left-hand side there. The school is just so enriched with things here to make kids know what's going on here. They had the tutorial schedule on the left-hand side, the expectations well here. So there's no excuse to say that kids know what's going on here. They know it's there in their school there. They need to look around, ask questions, make sure they get what they deserve here. Had a chance also to visit Miss Harris' class school here, the Granville area college here. She's also on top of things there. Kids are also aspiring to learn and do great things there as well here. But I also heard them saying that one thing that's very important, you've been a leader in a school here, you have to build what's called a relationship with kids here, with students, staff, parents, and stakeholders here. And as a former counselor here, I remember also saying that we really don't care how much you know, but we want to know how much you care. And I really met some very caring principals throughout Granville County in the last 4 weeks here, and my goal is to reach all schools here by our Christmas break here, because I need to know what's going on out there before I can decide on what goes on here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mincy. Anybody else have any comments?
Madam Chair, let me just take the time to applaud our new board member for the work she's doing already.
Appreciate it.
I'm impressed, and I think, pats on the back need to be go out when they can appreciate them. Yeah. And I do thank her.
Thank you, Doctor.
I think anytime we can be out in the schools and be supportive of their programs and things that they're doing, it helps them, but it really helps us as we do our work, because it's not what's on paper, it's what's in the schools that matters. Thank you again. Okay, the next item on the agenda is our, let's see. We're going to do reports on our committees. The academic committee, I believe, Dr. Winborn, you're doing a presentation later involving academics tonight.
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
All right. And we've got some minutes that are in our board docs, but I will just take a moment to kind of summarize some things that we did in the committee meetings. We met this afternoon in the policy committee. Of course, those are not the policies that will be on the agenda tonight. There have been several board meetings wherein policies have been discussed and voted upon, and if anyone in the public is curious as to why this is being frequently done on our agenda, the Board of Education has worked in collaboration with the North Carolina School Board Association in reviewing all existing policies. And once the policies are reviewed by the policy committee and any changes or proposals to make changes or remove or whatever, the policies are then coming to the full board. And this has been ongoing for the past several months. So tonight we will have some additional policies to look at for a vote. The Finance Committee also met, and several items that we talked about. And Ms. Hines is going to be doing a presentation later on the ESSER funds, so I'm not going to really cover that. There have been some changes in our state rules and regulations on how some of our employees are paid, hourly employees and such. And so there was a discussion on how we can transition to the new way of doing things and not to be as considerate of our employees and their needs as possible. So that's being studied also. We're also waiting for additional information from the Department of Public Instruction so that we can finish up our budget for the school year, and we hope we'll be able to have a budget resolution in the month of December if all goes well. One of the other things that we talked about was where we could get some funds or allocate some funds for a safety officer, and that came up in the other committee meeting too, because when responding to situations that arise, it's taking a lot of time away from people who are doing other tasks. So that's just something right now. No decisions have been made on any of this. We just are looking at it and thinking about it and how that would work. The other committee that had a meeting was the Operations Committee, and the minutes of that are included as well. Get that. Okay. No action was taken on anything, but there was an item that has come up. The board has been approached by a citizens group about using a strip of land at the Mary Potter campus for a greenway which would adjoin an adjacent property. It's all in theory now. Nothing has been done. So that's being looked at. The committee also received an update of the custodial services contract and model that some school systems in North Carolina are using. Committee members did have a lot of questions and concerns on all of these issues. So right now, we are just studying those things and finding out additional information. So that sort of concludes the activities of the budget committee or finance committee, the operations, and the policy committee. I would call to your attention that those meetings are advertised on our website, and they are open to the public should anyone wish to attend and listen in on those meetings. Does anyone else that was in any of the meetings want to add anything to that? Okay. Our next session is public comments. Dr. Winborn, do we have any people for public comments tonight?
Madam Chairwoman, no one signed up for public comment in person.
Okay.
We also posted the electronic public comment form this afternoon, and we had no individuals sign up via that method either.
Okay. Thank you. The next item we have on the agenda is the approval of meeting minutes, and these are consent items from different board meetings: March 28th, 22, April the 4th, 22, April 25th, 2022, May 2nd, 2022, and May 12th, 2022. Does anyone have any corrections to those minutes?
Are the minutes in the packets? They're not.
You can hit the view minutes.
I am logged in. Well, as long as board members can see them, that's what's important.
Yeah, well, I've been able to view them.
Okay.
I think we all have. Madam Chair, if it's in order.
The other item on the consent agenda is field trip approval. And Bill Graham can provide us a little information on that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've been submitting several field trip requests that have been in the hopper for a while. They've all been approved. We've looked at them internally, and so we're submitting them for the approval of the board, okay, at this time.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve all the consent items in this section?
Motion to approve as presented, Madam Chair.
Second.
Take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed unanimously. Okay. Our next item is academic updates. I'll turn that over to Dr. Winborn.
Thank you. Test. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Members of the board, can you hear me okay? Is that coming through?
Let's turn it up just a little
Just
bit.
up a little bit, guys? You can? How's that now? Better?
Much better.
Much
Excellent.
better.
Thank you. Well, good to see you this evening for my monthly academic update for you. We have 3 items for this evening's presentation. The first is MTSS, a closer look. This topic was discussed at a recent work session, and there were a number of questions that came up regarding this acronym, and so we're going to dive a little deeper into that. Then I'm going to provide a little bit of information about our instructional coaching and support at the district level, and then finally an update on our efforts with college and careers, the promotion of those. And I would invite you to just, after each one of these topics, I'll pause, and if you have some questions about it, we can address them then. But at this time, I'd like to ask Ms. Lisa Tusa to join me at the podium. Ms. Tusa is our MTSS coordinator. She's also in charge of professional development in our district and has been assisting quite a bit with our school principals and assistant principals when needed. MTSS is the multi-tiered system of support. And these acronyms get a little confusing sometimes, and this is one that the state has adopted, and districts across North Carolina ascribe to this. And it's really our method for improving our schools. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Tusa and let her share with you some information on her slides.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Superintendent, and Board of Education. So like Dr. Winborn said, MTSS is a total school improvement. So the official North Carolina definition is that it is school improvement framework that encompasses academic, behavioral, and social emotional instruction and support. And it employs a system approach using data-driven problem solving to maximize growth for all. So it is total school improvement. And it focuses on those 3 areas of behavior, academics, and attendance. So it starts with our Tier 1, and Tier 1 is universal instruction. This is instruction for all. It's also known as core instruction. And when we talk about a core instruction, that's all students. And we use the acronym ICED, so we talk about instruction. So what practice are we delivering? How are we delivering the curriculum? The curriculum, which are the materials that we use in Granville County. You've heard of Intro into Math, into Reading, our HMH series. Those are our curriculum. Our environment, and in environment, we talk about the climate, the management, the scheduling, and data-driven measures. So then we move to MTSS Tier 2. If a student is moved to Tier 2, it is targeted group interventions. These are some students. We move some students to Tier 2. And then Tier 3 is that intensive, individualized interventions for our few students that might need that. So in Granville County right now, we're using the MTSS part of ECATS, which is a system used to collect the data and the interventions that we're using. Our MTSS leads and our principals, some of our principals were trained on October 20th by DPI in this system, this new to us system. It's not new to North Carolina, but we have started using it this year. And in there, they learned how to create core plans, group plans, and individual plans. So a great analogy that I found to really kind of understand MTSS is kind of talking about the dentist. So every day we are providing universal general care, right, to our teeth. We do brushing, flossing, and so that's kind of that core where everybody should be doing that in order to help these high quality universal best practices of going to the regular dentist's office and having your teeth brushed and cleaned. That helps and is intended to be effective for the vast majority of people. But sometimes some people need a little more advanced care for their teeth, more intensive treatment. And that data shows, so the data maybe of pain or medical visits show that you might need to have a little more intensive care. And so that kind of shows how students might have to be moved to a tier 2 for more intensive help in the classroom. So by providing monitoring, continually improving our universal supports, and we're better able to care for all patients, right, with our teeth, well, we compare that to how we're doing that for our students. So MTSS is similar. Educators have highly effective instruction in the classroom so that fewer students need that intensive interventions to be successful. So in closing, what is MTSS? It's a way of doing things within our school that impacts every single student enrolled and is designed to make sure no one falls through the cracks. It's not a program, it's not a process, but it's a framework.
I believe there's another graphic
I was
here.
just going to say, this shows kind of that umbrella. So we have that umbrella over us of academic, social, emotional, and behavior. And then we have our students there. Tier 1, all students. Tier 2, some students. And Tier 3, few students. Question?
Yes. In reading through it, this is a program that may or may not be used by a special needs child depending on where they fall. So it's for both, actually. It could be or not necessarily.
Right. So it's important for teachers, educators, everyone to know that Tier 3 is not synonymous with special education. It doesn't necessarily mean special education. So, in fact, students with a disability may not need Tier 3 support and may not be students on Tier 3 might not be identified as a special education student. So, when you have students on the tiers, we're trying to we want to make sure that we are doing everything we can to help them with those interventions, using those interventions. If the interventions are not working and what we're doing there is not working, we have that data to show that if there is a possible learning disability, that's when they're tested and gone through that process. So it doesn't necessarily mean EC, correct?
Thank you.
Can I ask a few questions as
Yes.
well? Awesome. I know you said some of the principals were trained at this at the end of October. Is this, I'm new to the board here, so is this rolled out already, or is this in like the onboarding portion
No,
of this?
we're in it.
It's
Yeah,
on it.
we're
It's on
in
it. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Is the goal of the program to like real-time observe students as they move between the tiers, or is it to put them on a track where they're going to stay within for a while?
So what you do is, like I said, all students are on tier 1. So that's just your general core, how
Yeah.
we're teaching every day.
Yep.
The MTSS ECATS is where we hold that data. So, and that child, if they're on a tier 2, and tier 2 can be a group as
Yep.
well. You can have a group of students. So I might have this group of students in a school that all need a certain intervention. And those students have a a group plan on tier 2. And then if those interventions are working, right, that student or those students don't have to be moved to a tier 3. So we use those interventions for a good amount of time to say, okay, if these are working, then we don't need more intensive help for that student.
Sure. So I guess, do we as a board, do we have access to like percentages and stuff like that of the students in the, I guess, the more intensive groups for tracking to see like how that's changing over time and stuff like that?
I can get that.
I personally would enjoy having access to that information
To
because
see how many students are on tier 3?
Yeah, I mean, because if the goal is to have less focused, intensive intervention on the tier 3 kids, and over a 6-month period of time that goes from 20 kids down to 10 kids, then that's fantastic, right? Part of these programs is to assess real time how they're working, and I think that's important for us to have.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Are you finding that some of the students may need it in like math, but not in other
Right.
areas? Is that what
That's
you're-
correct.
Yeah.
That is correct.
So it's fluid.
Some students have a reading plan. Some students might have a math plan, SEL plan, behavior plan.
Is this integrated into the data management system that the school's already using, or is it
So
separate?
we are now using ECATS MTSS. So ECATS is used for our EC as well, but in there is part of ECATS has the MTSS piece that we are just started using this year.
I have a question. Is it possible then that if a student is moved into tier 2 and you find that it's working, there may be a point at which then they can be moved back to tier 1, so it's only an intermittent period of time?
Absolutely.
And then, sorry, I got one last question, just for my own clarification. When I see on the umbrella that it's academic, social, emotional, and behavior, do these 3 categories all have equal weight when it comes to determining which, I guess, tier that they would be in, or what?
So what ECATS does is it pulls data for us through PowerSchool and through testing areas. So it will pull that data, and it shows, it actually does, and I wish I apologize, I'm pulling up, but it has like kind of like a red light, green light, and yellow light, right, for the students under each area. So attendance, if they are over a certain amount of days absent, it'll either give us a yellow light or a red light for that student, so that it flags it.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Ms. Tusa, this difference, tell me how this differs from a kid being EC. This would not require a parent meeting, right?
So this does not mean a child has a learning disability. It means child is struggling a little bit in school, and that we need to put in some interventions to help that child in the classroom. But it does not mean that it is a learning disability.
Are parents notified when their child reaches a certain tier?
Yes. Yep, there is a parent letter. Any other questions? Okay, thank
These
you.
are
Thank you,
excellent,
Ms. Tusa.
excellent questions, and we are happy to revisit this again, go a little deeper, perhaps at your pleasure, maybe during an academic committee meeting or a work session, whatever your pleasure, just let us know. But I will also add one other really good way to prevent students from needing Tier 2 and Tier 3 is to strengthen our core instruction. If our core instruction, what we're providing all students, if it's aligned to the standards and it's a quality curriculum and we've got effective teachers, then we should have fewer students that will be struggling. So that's one of the reasons we work so hard on the what we teach and the how we teach it part of the equation. That makes a huge difference. And of course, having teachers in the classroom, which you'll hear about more later.
Yes.
Next, sir. So next, I wanted to provide you a little information about our instructional coaching at the district level. Let me preface this by saying some schools use their position allotments that they work with Mr. Perry and his team on at the beginning of the school year to hire instructional coaches at their school. Okay, so this would be in, maybe they have some extra Title I money, or they trade a position or use in place of an elective. They might choose to have an instructional coach at their school or a specialist. I'm talking about district level positions. And the majority of these are being funded with our ESSER dollars. Okay, so this will sunset in 2024, correct? So we are so fortunate to have them now, and we're hearing tremendous feedback from our principals about their work and the impact it's having in the classrooms, because they go in and work, especially with our new teachers, on helping them understand the standards, how to navigate the curriculum, and about basic classroom instructional practices. What's good pedagogy, good teaching. So here's an overview of where our positions are allocated. For ELA, we have a literacy coordinator, Ms. Lauren Piper. She's K-12. We have a literacy coach, Ms. Deborah Rickman, for K-5. And then we have one for 6-12, Ms. Karen Westbrook. And then for math, we have 2 vacancies for our elementary and our secondary level. Our coordinator level and our elementary level. We do have someone for secondary, Ms. Susan Randau. And then we also have someone for K-12 for science. And you might be asking, well, what about social studies? That's another core area. And we elected not to allocate a position to that for 2 reasons. One, there was a update in the standards at the state level this past year. So there's a lot of transition in what's being taught. Also, we have not yet adopted a social studies curriculum. That's something we're going to be bringing to you this school year to the board. So we just felt that probably wasn't the best use of resources at this time. But these individuals are spread across all of our schools. And ideally, we would have one assigned to every school. Ideally. And I know that's something Dr. McLean has wished for since her arrival. But it's difficult, and it's a trade-off with resources. But if you see any of these individuals, please give them a pat on the back and a huge thank you for their work. Next slide. This is basically what they're doing right here. They're providing, they're constantly working on curriculum resources for our teachers. You've heard me reference our focus site. This is the one-stop shop where our teachers go to find out what to teach. They're constantly updating this information and tools and resources for them to use. They're also providing professional development, formal sessions during our early release or our work days, but also just one-on-one coaching, actual coaching, just like you would think an athletic coach works with an athlete. It's the same thing. They'll go in, visit a classroom, watch a teacher in action, take notes, share feedback. Sometimes they videotape. Sometimes they'll go in and teach a lesson and model it for the new teacher. Lots of informal ways that can occur. And again, really making sure our new teachers, the ones that are brand new, we have so many teachers that didn't go through a formal education preparation program. They were provided provisional licenses, and they didn't have the 4-year degree in teaching. Instead, they had a degree in something else and have come to us to teach. So making sure that they get the basics has been really important. So happy to take any questions about that.
Yeah, I have one.
Yes, sir.
Do we have a proposal or a number in place about what the financial picture would look like to have instructional coaches at every school?
I think that's something
estimates would be fine.
We could easily get that projection. Yeah, it's. Dr. McLean, did you want to maybe field that?
Absolutely. That is easy to get for you.
Yeah.
It's something.
Because if we know the target, then we can try to figure out how to work it in and go from there.
We had it at one point,
Okay.
and then it was pretty clear we weren't going to get it, so we put it aside, but I'm happy to get that.
Cool. I'd like that. Thank you.
Sure thing.
Something to point out is that, you can see we have 2 vacancies right now in the math. So even if we had a position for every school, the current applicant pool is such that it might be very difficult to fill those positions as well.
Yeah,
That's
and
another.
I guess when is this slotted in? Is this like an after-school thing that's done on supplementally, or is it somebody that's sole purpose at each location is for instructional coaching? Like, what does this role look like on a day-to-day basis?
This is a full-time district
All day,
role, and they spend their
every day.
times in schools
Got it.
every day.
Cool.
Yes, great question.
And we think we have a solution we'll talk with you about in just a little bit, but all day, every day would be ideal.
Okay. Cool.
Any other questions about coaches? All right, next slide. So the last part is the college and career update, and Ms. Angie Salisbury sends her regrets tonight, but she is actually at a CTE workshop this afternoon and tomorrow. But as you know, our new motto for our students is when they leave us, we've got one of the 3 E's. They are enrolled, enlisted, and or employed. And it can be any combination of those 3, really. But it needs to be at least one of those. That's the plan. And we've been busy at work with that. And I know, Dr. Lindsay, you referenced this earlier tonight, right? The importance of having these goals for our students. And we've been working on that. We have had a really busy month in October. Dr. McLean, you alluded to this. The week of October 17th, we had our free college application week. We did a huge push in our schools with that, and not just for our seniors, but we promoted this all the way down into our elementary schools and talked about the importance of making plans and what are you going to do after high school. They celebrated college week and career month. They wore T-shirts, with their favorite universities, the teachers. Celebrated their school spirit. We had guest speakers come in, so there was a lot of talk and really focus on this topic, K-12 throughout the district. The ACT test, that's our college admissions test. That's huge. It's also a piece of our accountability for the district. Preparations for that test are underway. They're always happening. We have a lot of different resources that we're using to help students with that. Just so you know, that is a test that all 11th graders throughout North Carolina public schools take in the spring. Okay, and that's in March and April are those dates. Our 10th graders did the pre-SAT in October. It's a practice one, right? And so you get a lot of data off of those tests to help them prepare. ACT Work Keys is yet another assessment, and those are for our students that are taking multiple CTE, Career and Technical Education courses. And completers. Mm-hmm. They take more than one pathway course. And so, we've just been extremely busy promoting that. Of course, we've also had a lot of career promotional activities. We had a Careers on Wheels event at Butner Middle School where the 5th and 8th graders came out. It was rained out on the first day, but the second day turned out great, and we had a lot of local business and industry folks come out and showcase really interesting opportunities for kids, and they had a blast. It was really a good time for them. So again, this is huge. We got scholarship season underway. We have a spot on our website where we list like a clearinghouse of all the local scholarships that are available, plus our counselors and our college advisors help students search for the state and national scholarships. We have a new platform called Major Clarity, which you heard Ms. Salisbury speak to earlier, that helps students, they get to track everything in an online portfolio, getting prepared for college. And that's going to dovetail with our Portrait of a Graduate work too. And then FAFSA as well, the free federal application for financial aid. I think we heard that Dr. Allen at Granville Central High School has shattered her record last year and is up near 70% of all of her students have completed the FAFSA. So huge push there. Time's up, huh? All right. So anyway, happy to answer questions about that.
I was going to ask you the question about Portrait of the Graduate, but you did mention it. What kind of timeline has the state got to implement that?
I'm going to glance over at Dr. Whitaker. Maybe she can throw me a lifeline on that. I think they're looking to implement it this late fall, early 2023, maybe. Come on up here. Yeah. So again, new board members. The Portrait of a Graduate is a statewide initiative, but we've been leading the way here in Granville. We did a lot of work on this last year, and it turns out that we pretty much nailed what the state is doing. So we're ahead of the game, and we're ready. But I believe the state, if you want to say they're going to be...
Thank you. Yes, Dr. Winborn is correct. So we did start, as you all know, our Portrait of a Graduate work last fall, and we'd had 2 or 3 meetings before the state actually started meeting with stakeholders across the state to come up with their Portrait of a Graduate. And again, we were very excited when the state revealed their draft in July, because the competencies that we had come up with in Granville County totally aligned with the competencies that the state came up with. And just this past week, when we were at the AIM conference, it was officially revealed again, and the state is now sending out posters. They are now sending out registration links for districts to register to learn more about, now that we have this Portrait of a Graduate, how do we embed this in our instruction, and how do we move forward with it in our schools. So we're right on track with what the state is doing. As a matter of fact, we shared at the AIM conference that our Portrait of a Graduate, we're already embedding those type activities, as Dr. Winborn alluded to a moment ago, not just in high school, but down in elementary and middle school as well, with having the College Awareness Week, with having the truck fair, with having each month we take one of our Portrait of a Graduate competencies, and that's the focus of the month. And so teachers, principals, they're doing activities around that. So we're pretty pleased with where we are right now with that initiative.
Thank you, Dr. Whitaker.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any final questions? All right, that concludes academic updates. Thank you, Dr. McLean.
Thank you, Dr. Winborn.
Our next item is English as a second language, often referred to as ESL when you see that acronym, for program update.
We're really excited about this presentation. This department has gone all over the county, and they've held some wonderful family engagement meetings. And we'll just turn it over to Sheila Atkins and Miss Eve Lease.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Let me try that again. Good evening, Madam Chair and Superintendent and Board of Education members. We are here to represent the ESL program. As you can see, go to the next slide. We have the numbers broken down for each department. We have elementary schools, we have a total of 317 students. In middle schools, we have a total of 139 students. In our high schools, we have currently 151 students. Now, if you look at this little chart right here that we have, at the beginning of the school year, as of September the 26th, 22, we had a total of 592 students. And we were monitoring a total of 104 students. But now, as of, next slide, thank you. As of October the 25th, 22, we have a total of 607 students in our program. And we have a total of 106 students that we are monitoring. Evelise and I, we kind of looked at Elevations. That's the platform that we use for our ESL students. And we kind of broke everything down according to the languages that we have in the county that we're serving. We have a total of 14 different languages that our students are speaking. And as you can see, there's the list right there. And it's quite a few. It's quite a few. Okay. We currently have had parent nights for our ESL students. We had one on the southern end, and we have also had one on the northern end. We had a great turnout on our northern end, but in the near future, in the spring, we're hoping to do those programs again, parent nights again for each part of the county. So we're going to do that as well. Okay. Evelise, you want to add anything?
Good night, everybody. I just wanted to let you know also that based on the numbers from the very beginning in August, there were 489 students at the very beginning, and as of now, we have 622. These last couple of weeks, they have been increasing, so we have enrolled 133 new additional English learners into our program, and they keep coming. So that's an update. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Do you have any questions at this time?
This report this evening was designed to help everyone understand how different our district looks from where we were, even from when I arrived 5 years ago. You know, I'm going on 6 years. Look at the number of languages, the number of children who are being served as English as a second language pupils, and our families coming out to meet with us. We're having to transcribe quite a bit of the literature going home to our families. So it would be very important for us, and it is on a daily basis, to make certain in order to reach those families that we do certain things to make sure we reach those families. I suppose is the best way to put it. And this department is doing an incredible job in keeping in touch with those students and their families and making certain they feel welcome and at home, and that the teachers are well informed about what those students need in order to be successful. So do you have any questions while we have access to these individuals?
I had a question about the new students that you've recently enrolled in the program. Are they new students that have arrived or have just been identified, or a little of both?
There's a mixture. We have students who transfer from other districts or other states that belong to the WIDA consortium, and they have already been identified. Then we're getting students who are brand new coming to us, and the ones that were already identified, not the ones that were identified before in another district, the ones that we identified, and students who are also people having some questions about where, if they need to be identified or not. So we just try to investigate further and decide if they need to be in or not, based on the state regulations for that.
Follow-up question to that. If you have a student, say, that moves here in the 3rd grade or the 6th grade, and they speak no English or very limited, is that child going to take the same EOG as any
Yes,
other
ma'am.
child?
There's no exemption for testing anymore.
That's correct.
Every student has to take a test, regardless of their level of language development.
And it's done in English, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Keep up the good work.
Our next item is GFL Waste Management Contract Renewal, and I believe Bill Graham is going to speak about that.
Bill. Mr. Graham.
Great, so we get to go from the excitement of ESL instruction to waste management. Dr. Frederick, welcome to the board. Madam Chair and board members, I'm bringing to you a contract for renewal for GFL. This is a 3-year contract. I must bring this to you because it's the yearly expense exceeds the $100,000 limit. So we're talking about $135,000 basically for a year. For the 3-year contract that's being considered, it's $405,000 roughly. You have a copy of the contract. It's very straightforward. It's very similar to what we already have. The not to exceed is $468,000 for the same time period. I'd be glad to entertain any questions. This is for waste removal, recycling combined all together. Teresa Baker has done a great job, by the way, of working with that. For those of you who may or may not know, we share Ms. Baker with the county, and she's very busy taking care of recycling.
I think there's a event coming up at the expo soon for recyclable items.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. Any questions?
This comes to you as an action item for Dr. McLean and the chair to sign the contract. So.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion to?
I have a question. This contract is for 1 year, right?
3 years.
3 years, but
yes,
the
sir.
amount that we talked about, the 130?
135
is for one?
For 1 year.
Right, okay.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Excited.
I just have one note. The attachment has some terms, including the length, that don't quite match our master contract. So if the board would consider approving it subject to final revision of the language by the board attorney, there are a couple things that I would revise that would not change the amount or the services, but revisions to the legal language.
Could you speak to those changes?
So what I see, and I haven't reviewed this before, but the attachment that is the vendor's terms states that it's for 12 months instead of for 3 years, and reflects that if the school system were to terminate before the end of the period, that there would be a liquidated, in other words, that the school system would have to pay for the full year. I would like to see if the vendor would revise that language.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Well, would you suggest you bring it back after you do that, or approved on the condition that gets?
It's okay with me, given I don't know what your timeline is, if the board would approve it subject to final attorney revision of the language of the contract. The amount and the services that you're paying for shouldn't change, but if you'd prefer to have it come back, we can do that.
The contract is for January 1st.
Okay.
So you have time to bring it back next month?
I certainly can, we can.
So Attorney Dubison, we can be in contact and get that straightened out. Okay.
We could bring it back.
Just
to
bring it
the
back next month.
December
Bring it in
meeting.
December.
Yeah,
I can do that.
I'd rather do that.
Or the work session.
We can put it on the consent.
Okay, under consent.
Okay.
Can do that. So no action tonight on that.
No action this evening.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Thank you, Attorney Dubson. Okay, the next item is a reimbursement rate for activity buses. And
Chris Ham, will you please come back to the podium?
Good evening again. I've been playing the new guy card for a little bit in these last 6-7 months I've been in this job. And I've been reviewing policies and procedures and finding things that work and some things that we needed to do to make things a little better and more efficient for our department. And one of the things that we came across is what we're currently doing with our field trips and use of activity buses versus what our actual costs are versus what other districts are doing as well. So just a brief synopsis here. DPI provides state funding just for yellow buses going to and from school. So as I explained it to a person the other day, if it's not school bus yellow, we can't use state funding for that. So any funds that we spend outside of that on activity buses or county cars or maintenance vehicles, we have to reimburse the state for those dollars. And we use state funds to purchase our fuel because the vast majority does go to our yellow buses. But when we use funds for activity buses or other items, we do have to reimburse the state, and we do that on a monthly basis. And I'm still learning some of those procedures, so I may turn to my esteemed colleague, Ms. Vicki Hines, to give some more specifics on those details. So our current reimbursement rate for field trips that was in place when I came on board was 75 cents per mile. And that has not been revisited in the last few years because obviously we haven't been doing a lot of field trips over the last few years. And we all know how the world has changed during the last couple of years. And we also know how things have become a lot more expensive during that time. Our drivers earn their regular rate of pay, and historically we have not charged athletics for use of our activity buses for away events. So I started calling some of our partners in crime and other districts and seeing what they were doing. So here's a brief synopsis. Durham, the drivers they earn $21 per hour, which is above the top of the state scale. And they also charge $2.50 per mile, and that does include athletics. Vance County, the drivers get $18 per hour for the driver, and they also get $2.80 per mile, including athletics. And Orange County is at $2.70 per mile, including athletics. Okay. So once a year, and you have this handout in the documents that I submitted, they calculate our cost per mile, figuring everything, the salaries of the drivers, the salaries of the mechanics, parts, fuel, oil, tires, the whole gambit. So on October 6th was the last time of 2021, the last time DPI ran this report, and you have that, and it says $2.11. And if you're looking at that handout, you see the breakdown there of all the different items involved in that. If you look at the first star down at the bottom, it's basically saying, whenever possible, avoid reimbursement of drivers entirely by paying the driver directly from the program funding source. That is what we do. We do not include that. That's paid separately. It's not paid through transportation. And it also says in years where fuel prices fluctuate significantly, which this year definitely qualifies for, to update the fuel component. And DPI has this nice spreadsheet, which is also the second attachment that you have here, where I went in and plugged in our numbers, left all the variables the same except for our fuel cost. And this updated calculation puts our cost at $2.46 per mile. So just changing fuel, which when I calculated this was at $4.69 a gallon, which we last paid. We paid more than that this last time when we just got fuel last week. So when you remove all of the driver costs, which are the wages, the Social Security, retirement, hospitalization, our actual cost to use our activity buses fuel-wise is at $1.55 per mile. So we're losing quite a bit at our current rates. And it's just general, just with everything else. As costs go up, it goes up everywhere. So we're in the same position. So we have a couple of requests this evening, and one would be to increase our bus usage reimbursement from 75 cents to $1.55 to cover our increase in costs, and to consider the documentation and required reimbursement process for using athletics, for using our buses too. Ms. Hines, is there anything you want to add about some of those procedures that we've been talking about?
Absolutely. The process for the reimbursement is very much a book type thing. It's just a transfer of funds between the state transportation account and our local transportation account. We use local funds for our county cars and our driver's ed and those other vehicles that aren't yellow school buses. And what we would recommend at this time is not that we transfer that cost to the athletics budget, but just move those costs to the local transportation budget. So it would still stay within the transportation budgets, but not affect athletics, because we recognize that's a big jump and a big change at one time. So that's what we're looking at. It's all local funds, so it will even itself out, but just wanted to give you that information.
Are we thinking that in order not to impact athletics, we would do that for this year and then next year just relook at this? Or is this like, are we looking at this as a permanent solution, or do we foresee in the future we're going to have to charge athletics?
We have not been making this transfer at all up until this year. And our transportation budget has been okay in that balance between state and local funds. So at this point, we're just making sure that we're doing it according to what the state requires, and by moving those expenses into local funds. I think it's something that we need to look at, because at this point, we've never done it before, so we really don't know what that's going to look like. But I think it's something that we do need to pay attention to and see what that number looks like over the course of this year.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion to approve this request as it's been presented tonight?
Well, is this going to be rolled into the fuel shortage slide that you also have? Like, do we have to act on them both at the same time, or is this a separate? I'm asking.
What was the question?
The question is, because he hasn't gone over the fuel shortage slide yet either, and there's action in that as well.
Okay.
Do we need to do them simultaneously, or do we need to do them separately?
What do you think?
Well,
I think
to me,
they're
they're two separate events.
Separate
Okay.
issues.
Mhm.
Okay.
Separate issues. Yeah.
Well, Madam Chair, motion to approve the increase as presented.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay. Now the second part
Okay.
is the fuel shortage, right?
Yes, it has definitely been an interesting couple of weeks with fuel and learning more about how all of this works. So we are very much in a issue with fuel shortages. Last Tuesday, our supplier sent us an email saying, hey, we're struggling to get fuel ourselves to give to you, so stay on top of your supply, order accordingly. So we went ahead on Wednesday and called them and said, hey, we would like to go ahead and get some, because we had enough space in our tank to get that. And they didn't have any. They had sent 2 vehicles to Greensboro. Greensboro is this hub of where diesel comes out through a pipeline, and they sent 2 trucks that night, and both came back empty. So we started contacting other vendors to see what they may have, and everybody was coming to the same issue. And normally we order 7,500 gallons at a time, and we do that every 2 weeks. We finally received fuel on Friday, and we received 4,000 gallons. So for us, that is about a week's supply. So we currently, as we stand right now, have about 9 to 10 days of fuel at our disposal. With that day when the driver brought the fuel on Friday, he mentioned that he had to go to 3 locations to get the 1 load of fuel that he was able to get, and that was all that their supplier had on that day. So that is a very real situation, and we've been told to anticipate this going on through the winter. So that has made us think, and we had some interesting conversations with Mr. Graham and Dr. McLean over all of this and where we stand on field trips just in general. You know, it could very possibly come to a point where we're deciding on canceling field trips so that we can guarantee we have enough fuel to run our yellow buses every day. I think we would all agree that that takes priority over the field trips. While we love the field trips, we've got to get kids to school every day. So that's why we're talking about these things this evening. I talked with Mike Carroll, our athletic director for the county, and with his department, they calculated they're going to have about anywhere from 9,300 to almost 10,000 miles of fuel usage between now and February. So that is basketball season and wrestling season. So that's quite a bit. So, we want all of these things to go on. So we've been talking about what we might need to do with the field trips at this point. I'll let Mr. Graham talk.
So next slide. Yeah, thank you. So considering the sort of dire straits that we find ourselves in, we're recommending that we suspend future field trips and consider them on a weekly basis going forward. So let me clarify a couple things. I just brought to you some field trips to be approved this evening. Half of those are charter buses, so we don't have to provide fuel for those, so that's fine. And what we're talking about is from this time going forward. And I think we got something like 12 to 15 field trips right now signed, short little field trips that individual schools are taking. So we're talking about from now going forward, when we get the new requests, we will consider the fuel supply in the decision to, up or down. And that is the recommendation that we're bringing to you, is to ask that we start this new practice. So it's something different for sure.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
And the question is, who's going to make these decisions on a weekly basis?
We do.
Okay.
Dr. Ham has another presentation coming up. They'll speak to that, but related to field trip, that process and being streamlined and so forth. But it is something that my office and his office work together on. So, yes, ma'am.
It's the time of year, December, January, February, when it's cold. Is that time of year usually less field trips to deal with in general?
I think so, yes.
Okay. That's a positive.
Pumpkin patch is very attractive, and we have that behind us.
So a lot of them are more in the spring.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And board members, one of the things these gentlemen shared with me was it's a lot easier to go along with field trips that are here in the community rather than those that are in, having distance.
Correct.
And that's why they put up here weekly basis and going forward. If our transportation department cannot get fuel this week, then we know we probably shouldn't let anyone do anything additional next week. And so that's why the weekly basis component is added there. If we are fortunate and get fuel this week, then we are comfortable allowing what is scheduled next week to go on. So they're going to, try to go through with what has already been approved, but at this point, not accept anything new right now.
Correct. And recognizing that this would not be a permanent situation, that this is a result of the fuel crisis. So just to be clear about that. Because I know it's, this puts a burden on the principals making those decisions at the last minute. They have a trip planned and they have to cancel. So, okay.
So you're saying, because I'm looking at the field trip approval form, like the South Boston, Virginia, those two events, and fortunately it's two schools that are in the northern end anyways, but so are those going to be approved at this point?
Yes.
And, okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
So the only comment I would have is just being mindful of the fact that some of these kids haven't had any field trip access because of COVID and stuff like that, right? So it's tough. This is very real. If we can't even get them there, they need to get to school. The only thing, if you guys are making the decisions, you guys have boots on the ground with all this, you'll make a more informed decision than we will on this. The thing that I would just make a comment on is trying to provide equal access to field trips for each of the schools and making that level across the board so that there's not middle schools have twice as many field trips as elementary schools or something like that. Trying to make it equal across the board.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
That's right.
Good point.
Excellent.
Any more questions on that? Are we at the point we need to make action on this? Okay.
I'll motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Madam Chair, is it possible, Dr. McLean, that we can get some type of ongoing report on the fuel situation in future board meetings?
Absolutely.
Just so we're up to speed on.
Absolutely.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Right. We now have item 805, and these are policies that have, I believe these have been presented before. Is that correct?
Yes, these were approved for first reading, so this is second reading.
Second reading.
So if they're approved tonight, then they would go into effect.
Does anybody have any questions about any of those policies or concerns?
I'm ready for a motion to approve them, to make that motion.
Okay.
If I'm in order, I make a motion to approve the policies
Second.
on the second read.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed unanimously. And we'll have some more for you soon. I believe now we have another transportation update.
This one's a little bit more positive.
Okay,
And
sounds
I know
good.
you're tired of hearing from me. I'm tired of hearing myself talk at this point. But just a couple of quick updates on some exciting things that are going on in our department and where we're moving in the future. So you guys don't get to see our actual process for our local field trip and all the paperwork that's involved in that. It's 4 or 5 pages. It gets from the teacher to all these other different people. It comes to both of our offices, and lots of things happen. Sent to a number of people. There's more work to do after the trip to handle payments, invoicing, and things like that. So we were made aware of a system that's cloud-based called Travel Tracker that we are going to move to, and hopefully we don't have to say no to any field trips because we're going to get some fuel and we'll be able to use this fully. So rather than me explain Travel Tracker, there's a brief 2-minute video on the Travel Tracker website that explains it much better.
Arranging a school trip to the zoo is likely to be a more chaotic and primitive experience than actually visiting animals at the zoo. With all the budgeting, staff communication, and approvals that are required, it's amazing that field trips ever make it. Better yet, on time and on budget. That is, it was a daunting task until the app garden came along. The Travel Tracker app takes the entire field trip planning process and streamlines it into one powerful and efficient application. The Travel Tracker can intelligently guide your trip request through the necessary checkpoints by connecting everyone involved in the process through a single medium of communication. From initial review and funding approval to cafeteria notifications, bus reservations, and school board approval, the Travel Tracker knows all the ins and outs of trip planning, and user customization allows it to fit perfectly into your specific setup. Being a cloud-based software means that the entire system can be instantly accessed via a simple web browser by any staff, anywhere. Never again will you have to deal with lost documents, time-wasting redundancies, and costly chargebacks, thanks to the Travel Tracker's ability to securely centralize all the processes from request to approval to invoicing. Watch your school grow greener with the Travel Tracker's ability to reduce wasted paper, and by sending clear requests to food service managers, it will make sure no food is wasted either. And you'll save tons of money by getting everything right the first time. Save even more money by letting the Travel Tracker's district-wide reporting help you refine your administrative process. And by planning your trip with such an efficient, automated, and centralized system, the Travel Tracker will help you get back the most important resource of all, the time you need to teach.
So like the video says, it's 100% customizable. We've already been working with the Travel Tracker team to set it up for our needs. So it's all electronic. The teacher will put in the request. It goes straight to the bookkeeper. It goes to the principal. It can send notifications directly to child nutrition if they need lunches. It moves everything along. Teachers, as they're planning the trips, they can use the MAPS feature in it to determine how much it's going to cost based on our new rate of reimbursement. It let them know all those costs as a total and per student. So it's phenomenal, and it's just going to flow straight through us. The ones that need board approval will obviously come to you for that, but it's going to streamline our processes and cut down on a lot of time that is spent moving paperwork around. And we do that a whole bunch with field trips as it stands right now. So we're very excited about putting this together. We hope that we get through all the implementation and start training and have this in place early January 2023. Our next update, I'm really excited about as well. We've had a partnership with Synovia for the last few years. If you've heard about the Here Comes the Bus app, parents can set up GPS notifications when the bus gets so close to their home and those types of things. And that's the main thing that folks have seen with it. We also use it on the backside for time and attendance for our drivers. GPS monitors the buses, so if we get a call saying the bus didn't come by the house, we can find where the bus is if it's just running late, those types of things. So we are moving to a new partnership with Synovia very soon, and we're going to be using a lot more of the features that you see on the screen here. So obviously we'll continue to use Here Comes the Bus. We'll also be moving to student ridership, where students will actually swipe in and off the bus. So now not only will the parents get that the bus is in their area, they will actually get a notification that their child got on the bus and what time they got on, and when they get home in the afternoon. So more information there. One of the things I'm most excited about is these tablets, and you'll see them a little bit better moving forward. These tablets will be on the bus, and it will provide our drivers turn-by-turn navigation through the bus route, and will also indicate what students are supposed to get off at what stop. As folks are coming on and substitute driving, if you don't know our process now, it's paper. We hand them paper routes. So they have to try to read the routes and all and be familiar with it, and then go out and ride the bus. And anytime we do an update where the student comes on the bus or student comes off, we send more paper, and it's more paper to read. These will update overnight automatically, and when the driver gets on the next morning, the most updated route will be in place. We can go ahead to the next slide. So this is the module that we'll be using. It's replacing our current system, and you can see there the turn-by-turn navigation. We can send messages to the driver if there's anything specific they need to know about. If someone tries to get off on the wrong stop, it will notify them of that as well. And again, student ridership, there'll be RFID scanners on the bus, and the students will have two options. They can use the Here Comes the Bus app and get their scan card from there and just put their phone up to it and clock in, or we can actually go to a physical card like you would use for the library or whatnot. So parents will get more information knowing that their children safely got on the bus, because a lot of them do have to go to work before their kids get on the bus, so they're left wondering each day. So this will take that wonder out of the equation. So we're very excited about that. That'll help us in the event we never want to have an accident, but if there's an accident, we can easily find exactly who was on the bus when that accident occurred. So it's going to help us provide more information for our families and better information for us from a safety standpoint. So those are the two things that we have coming in the very near future. We're hoping to have this rolled out in January as well. I think I'm going to take my time with the scanners and maybe pilot that at a couple of schools in the spring, get the kinks worked out, and then go full implementation next school year. So those are some positive things that are going on as transportation. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to entertain them.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
So how easy is it then for, like, if a student decides they want to go home with a friend, for them to, how easy is it for them to, like, change their little tag thing so that the bus driver...
That's probably and I don't know the answer to that right now, because we're still just early on in this process too. But that may be where we can send messages to the driver through the tablet as well.
Okay. And then the other question that I had is, like, so what happens if the kid leaves their tag at home by
There
accident?
is an option for the driver to manually enter them.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have a rough number of how many students on a given day usually ride the bus?
Yes, about half the district.
That's a lot of kids.
We drive 5,500 miles every day on 87 buses.
Dr. Ham, do you know about, I guess, the costs involved with like the travel tracker and this? Is this like subscription based, or once we buy the hardware, we're done?
So Travel Tracker is subscription based. We signed an agreement for that.
Okay.
Very affordable. Was not very expensive at all. Synovia, this is actually a rental agreement, so we don't buy any of the equipment.
Oh, okay. I would just like to say before you get off of this, I thank you for centralizing this, because I am quite aware of what it used to be like when every school had to hunt down their own drivers and manage all of that process.
Well, they still have to do that.
I'm just, well, thank you for taking a lot of this off.
I've tried to apply the same principles as when I was a school principal in this role, trying to remember what it was like and trying to make things better for our schools. And we've been successful in a lot of things. We still have some improvements to do, but we're working on them.
What some of you may not realize we're speaking of is we went to a new model for managing our buses this year. Instead of it being a school-based model with everything being managed at the school level, our district is managing buses this year. And that means people have to share, and that is everything from drivers to substitutes to varying levels. But we are managing from a district level this year for the first time. And this model is used all over the state, all over the country. So we piloted initially. Dr. Ham agreed to it. His staff agreed to it. And it's gone quite well. That isn't to say there haven't been bumps, but bumps are better than potholes. So it's been a nice year, in my opinion, and I too want to thank Dr. Ham for taking me up on that offer.
And one last thing I'll say, I'm happy to report that we've started the year and we continue to have a driver for every bus. We've not had a driverless bus. Still working out some issues trying to get more sub-drivers.
That's right.
But we are not in a situation where a bus is just never not run. We may have to run it a little late, or we may have to run some other things and get creative sometimes, but we will always run the bus. We will not run a bus, if I can help it.
I heard an assistant principal say some time ago that so much of their time was taken up with bus issues. And to have these people be back working on other things in the school is really a blessing. So thank you.
You see Dr. Winborn smiling because now that means our assistant principals who were once, really bogged down dealing with buses, we now have them freed up a bit to work on quality instruction in our school buildings, and that's what we want.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ham. This is exciting.
Okay, next we have our federal programs update.
This is Miss Shelby Hunt. So happy to have you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Dr. McLean, and all board members. Tonight, I would just like to give you an update of our federal programs on some of our budgets that have ended. The next slide. You will see from our federal programs, from our budgets, you will see our ESSER, our Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, and our GEAR, our Governor's Emergency Education Relief Funds. These were the allocations that were given for these funds. This chart shows you how much was allocated for each PRC. As you can see, we had over $2 million from our 6 different PRC budgets. Next slide. The first one is budget PRC 163. It is ESSER 1 CARES Act. The total allocated was $1,414,935. The allocations covered the following. We paid for summer staffing program from SummerQuest. We purchased PPE supplies for the district. We paid for school positions such as custodians, assistant principals, nurse, pre-K teacher, and receptionist. We also provided supplemental items purchased for our curriculum and instruction. We purchased education Edgenuity for our ESL population, and we had Florida Virtual and Cengage to help with our Granville Academy and Virtual Academy schools. Next slide. PRC 166, this is our learning management system. It was only allocated $1,176, and this allocation was to use to purchase Canvas licensing. There were only a few licensings purchased through this PRC, but as the technology team has now purchased even more licenses after this allocation. Next slide. 167 is ESSA 1, is our Exceptional Children's Grant. We were allocated $73,313. The allocation covered and provided funding for our compensatory and extended school year services, provided funding for speech and language summer services, provided one-to-one assistance for Summer Bridge participants, and it provided funds for psychological testing protocols. Next slide. 168 is our Innovative Child Care and Remote Extended Support, iCares. We were allocated $500,000. The allocation covered the following. We paid for site coordinator positions for after school, as well as our group leaders positions for our after school programs. We also provided tutoring in our after school programs. We purchased cell phones, and we paid for the cell phone bill at each site each month, and we also provided supplies for after-school programs such as games, cleaning supplies that were needed, and any projects that the after-school site would like to purchase and did for their students. Next, we have 169 is our Specialized Instructional Support personnel. We were allocated $203,947, and this allocation covered for our social workers during the school year, as well as over the summer. We paid for our social workers and our guidance counselors to help work with our summer programs for our Summer Quest and our Summer Bridge programs. 170 is from GEAR, and it is our supplemental instructional service. We were allocated $89,055. The allocation covered for the following. It covered for our NCED tutors for the year to serve in our elementary schools to help our students during the daytime to provide pullouts with interventions and small time support. We could only spend 10% of these funds that could be spent to purchase for supplies. So this is out of all of our PRCs, this is the only PRC that we have a balance of $21,035.36 that we will have to return to the state. All of the other budgets we have spent, and we have spent all of those remaining funds. Do you have any questions?
Ms. Hunt, what is Canvas licensing?
It is a platform for the teachers.
Okay. And meaning what?
Well, it's the platform where the teachers can use
technology.
It's the,
Yes.
learning management
Learning management system.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Is it $21,035.36? Is that basically because of not being able to get the services or hire the people?
Yes, ma'am. We started off with a few tutors, and as the year progressed, we've lost some tutors, so we were not able to hire anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We think Mrs. Hunt has done a phenomenal job spending every brown penny she possibly could. Thank you so, so much. And she works really hard to keep all of us legal, because I'll tell you, people have lots of ideas about what they can do with this money, and until she sends it up the flagpole, she will not give anyone an answer about spending that money, and we appreciate that. Thank you so much, Mrs. Hunt.
Okay, our next item, 808, is district update, staffing and efficiency. I believe that's Dr. Winborn.
This one is going to require a combination team effort, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Dr. Winborn?
Yes, ma'am.
All hands on deck for this district update. Well, I don't know. Some of your deck is running out of the room.
I let them out early.
I'm kidding. I'm picking on all of them. Thank you all so much. No. Everyone has worked extremely hard to put this presentation together. So, Dr. Winborn and team, will you take it away?
Thank you, Dr. McLean. We've referenced earlier tonight the importance of having that effective teacher in every classroom. In fact, that was the very first element of our district academic improvement plan. It all starts with that. You know, the research is conclusive on this fact that the number one impact on academic achievement is that teacher in the classroom, without a doubt. Without a doubt. And we are reaching what I would describe, and I think my colleagues and Dr. McLean would agree, a crisis point. And not just in our school district, but across the state and across the nation with regard to our teacher staffing. We're going to provide you some data tonight to show you where we are, and then we're going to share with you some of our recommendations on how to address this. There are items in here that are for action, and then following that, we'll be sharing some additional ideas. Ms. Hines is going to provide some financial data, and the HR team is available to answer questions about specifics there. But I'll start with this. We began the school year with almost 70 vacancies. These are certified positions, teaching positions in our district. This was an all-time high for us, above and beyond what we normally experience at the start of the school year. It's not unusual for us to have a lot of vacancies in the summer, but they almost always, that number gets brought down as we approach the new, the beginning of the school year. And we started to see a lot of progress in that, in hiring folks, but lately the trend is ticking back up and headed in the wrong direction. In fact, just last week, I think we had a series of back-to-back resignations in some really tough positions in some of our schools. And this is causing a tremendous amount of strain, not just for those children that don't have a teacher in the classroom, but all the remaining teachers and the administrators in the school that have to figure out a way to make it work. And it's really becoming, like I said before, a crisis. So that's the general picture right there. Next slide, please. You can see by grade span how this breaks down. And these are the actual counts. But if you convert that to a percentage, it's impacting middle school even to a greater degree than those counts right there. So middle school is particularly hurting when it comes to staffing. Next slide. There's the percentages. A fourth of all tested areas, okay? I broke that down for you so you can see that. Tested areas. A fourth of our classrooms in reading, math, and grade 8 science for middle school don't have a teacher right now. I'm leaving a dramatic pause there to let that sink in because it's real. It's real. I don't know how we're going to get our schools up to a letter grade of B or an A, much less an A, with a fourth of the positions vacant. And again, what's happening in these situations is that the 75% of the teachers who are there are having to pick up the slack. We're relying on them to help cover during their planning periods, help with instructional planning, monitor the kids. Because in many cases, we either have a virtual teacher that's being brought in real time with a substitute watching the children, or a teacher assistant. And so it's just the chemistry of the school, it's wreaking havoc on them. The next slide. And here you can see it broken down by subject. And again, EC by far really hit hard. 15 vacancies right now. That's out of 60. We only have 60 EC teachers. That's a full fourth again right there. and then math and science also. Particularly difficult. These vacancies, we're seeing 0 candidates applying. 0. Next slide. Now I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Perry so you can talk about what's happening with these numbers right here.
Thank you, Dr. Winborn. As you can see from what you see on the screen here, there's been an ebb and flow with our hiring and resignations since the summer. Just as he mentioned, that is our June and July is our peak hiring season. So we normally see a lot of resignations, but we also see a lot of hiring during that season as well. So you notice that our resignations were higher during the month of July, but our hires were below the number of resignations that we received. And that dipped down into August. We were hiring more than we were receiving resignations, but that trend you see is ticking back up. We are continuing to use all of our practices that we've been employing, and I'll go over that in just a few minutes, but that ebb and flow of hiring and resignations just keeps going back and forth. As we present our report each month, we'll talk about the number of hires, but we also talk about the lengthy number of resignations that we do receive. So as one comes in, 2 may go out, or vice versa. Mm-hmm. Next slide. So our current vacancy data shows that we have about 14% of our vacancy rate is in the EOG and EOC tested areas, which is it's heavy. That may seem like a small number. When you talk about student performance and moving our schools forward, having a teacher in that classroom is important. For that small 14%, it does resonate strongly. 25% in our exceptional children's department. We're seeing limited number of candidates apply for our EC positions, and even in our teacher education programs, there are a limited number of candidates who are also going into teacher education programs, not only for EC, but for other areas as well. There are 17 vacancies in middle school and high school, between middle school and high school, that are currently being served by Elevate K-12, which is a virtual synchronous platform that has been providing services to our students via a web-based, and we do have a classroom facilitator in there to monitor student behavior, to assist students as necessary. We also are using one of those positions at Creedmoor Elementary School as a trial at our elementary school, and that is beginning shortly. This year at Phoenix Academy, that model has been revamped. We had quite a few people to resign at the end of last school year at Phoenix Academy, and so we are using Edgenuity, which is virtually asynchronous for students who are working with teachers of record who are providing instruction, but that is not synchronous. And we do have classroom facilitators in working with those students as well as they need assistance. And our next slide, our recent hiring efforts. We've come back to you for a number of times now here with hiring incentives that we've been utilizing. We're increase our incentive rates, our longevity plan, which goes into effect in February to bring back and reward those individuals who have been working with the district and who have stayed with us. The state has gotten rid of longevity pay for our certified employees, but has maintained it for our classified. But we are instituting our own local plan for longevity here in the district for all employees, all permanent employees. Master's pay as well. That has been a big hit for our employees and for as recruiting as well. We hosted a summer job fair and planning an additional job fair for the winter. We've moved to onboarding our employees bi-monthly, so the 1st and 15th, or the day that's closest to the 1st to the 15th, if it falls on the weekend. We onboard and bring in our new employees, so there's no lag in that delay in individuals starting. Last meeting, we instituted the referral bonus, and that has been a big hit as well. We've gotten a number of emails from individuals who have who have inquired about our referral plan, and we do see a number of people who have started to apply based on the referrals. We've always utilized college and university recruiting, and that is always going on, and we are steadily beating down the doors for those opportunities that we can get into. We have a fair coming up next week. We had a fair last week. Of course, these individuals most of them are not graduating until the spring, but we're letting them know about opportunities that are available to our district now. Also for those December graduates, we're also recruiting them as well. So any December graduates and our alternative license and candidates who may be graduating in December, we can bring those individuals on board in January. Ms. Kerr, anything you'd like to add and may have overlooked or omitted? All right. Next slide. All right, thanks. Back to you, Dr. Granville.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Perry. I was talking with Ms. Kern earlier. We're at 54 vacancies, 53. She hired someone today.
Yay!
But, you know, this time last week, we were below 50. So, you know, it's a seesaw, up and down. Yes, ma'am.
These people that are leaving after the school year starts, I guess they just give a notice and they leave. Is that primarily being picked up by the Durham and Wake County school systems? Is that what we're seeing?
We're actually seeing a combination. We do have a large majority that are going to other school districts, but we also have more going to other states than we have in the past, and we also have some that are just completely leaving education. And I think we've been hit a little bit more this year than ever before by online education. We have some of our educators who have gone to work from home for education companies that all sprang up during COVID to do online education, and they're taking the best and the brightest with them in that. So it's really a mix of what we're
What
seeing.
about charters?
We are seeing some going to charters as well, and that's not one charter, it's multiple charter schools. But no, that's not a large percentage of ours that are leaving us.
Thank you.
Can I ask another question? How are the contracts written? Because such that they can leave in the middle of a term, because it's obviously a lot easier to fill a vacancy if it happens at the end of a term or something like that. So is there I guess for me, because I don't know, is there a penalty, incentives? What does that look like just for completing a term or something like that?
For a certified employee, particularly a teacher, a 30-day notice. You have to work out a 30-day notice. If they fail to do so, we can report them to the state. But generally, most of them do work out their 30-day notice.
Is that a standard notice across the state, country?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that is set by state law. Now I know that you have in the past had, so as far as having a penalty for leaving in the middle of the contract year, I think that is not something that we could do under the law, but you have at times had bonuses that are not earned until you stay for a certain amount of time, so or are spread out throughout the year, so that to achieve the next payment, you have to stay.
Yeah.
Mr. Perry, has the state considered allowing tithes to come out earlier than 6 months?
There was a short period for that during COVID, but that is no longer available. So it's still a 6-month waiting period.
Well, what is the typical vacancy number, when we start a school year, in prior years, just compared to what it is that is this year?
I've seen that number down to 12 and down to 8, single digits.
Oh, wow. And then I know this is the topic that is nobody wants to touch it, but how much would consolidation help with?
We'll talk about that in just a few minutes.
Okay. And then my last question actually is, when did we announce the longevity? Because it seems like in October there was a dip. Did we announce that in October, the longevity pay?
Longevity pay, that was back in June, July.
It was a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that had no real bearing.
Right,
on.
we won't make that payment until February.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right, so crisis is real. The numbers are staggering. So I want you to brace yourselves for our proposals about how to address this. And they are bold and very aggressive. Okay, but we think that that's what's needed right now. Next slide. EC teachers, effective immediately, increase the hiring bonus from $3,500 to $10,000. This would be paid for over 2 years in installments. To your point, it would keep people retained throughout that time.
Yes.
Okay? We're going to go through. There's a series of these, okay? So stay with me and stop me if you have any questions, okay? EC, again, this was our big one. 1/4 of our positions are vacant right now. Yes, sir.
I'm so sorry. What's EC?
Great question. Exceptional Children's Program. Special education, students with disabilities. Great question. Sorry, we have too many
I spent like 5 minutes trying to figure it out, and I gave up.
Please check us on that. Keep it real. And for all the people listening out there too, exceptional children's program teachers.
Trust me, some of us still don't know all of it.
Right. These are the teachers that serve our children with individual education plans, IEPs, students with disabilities. All right, that's a big number, but there are many other districts out there that are doing the same thing.
That's right.
That's true.
That's correct.
Neighboring counties like Durham, Chapel Hill, and the neighboring counties are doing that.
Other districts across the state are at or near this number. All right, next slide. Secondary math and science teachers. Again, we're going to increase it. Currently it's at 2,500. Okay, we're going to increase it to $10,000. Payable, again, over 2 years through installments.
Is that 2 installments or monthly installments?
Well, we are still working on those details. I believe we're looking at quarterly or monthly? Quarterly installments over 2 years.
Could you stagger it so they'd be here longer the first, say, 6 months, then 3 or, I mean, that's.
It's a great idea.
You mean have the payments go up the longer they're here?
Yeah, I mean.
That's a great idea.
Great idea.
I'm looking at, in order to get the first installment, you have to be here for 5, 6 months. I mean, it could be greater than, but my thoughts are, the longer they're here, the longer you got to work on them to keep them.
Yes, sir. Almost all of our Elevate, those are the virtual synchronous classes. That's where a teacher is on a screen in a classroom. It's a certified high-quality teacher teaching to the standards, but the majority of them are science and math teachers in secondary. We have some grade levels now at middle schools with no in-person math teachers.
Dr. Winborn, will this consider those people who are certified in the area, or they can be not certified? How we work that out? Have to be certified to get these jobs?
When we say certified or classified, certified or licensed, we want to make sure they are eligible for a license in that area. Now, mind you, we do have restart schools. In those restart schools, they're not, all of them are not required to have a license, but they need to have the content area knowledge in order to be successful in that classroom. So that they would need some math and science background, degree, work history, and things of that nature.
And eligible.
To be eligible, yes.
Would that be available to the teacher that's teaching virtually in the synchronous classroom as well?
No.
Would it have to be in person?
In person.
In person.
In person.
And full-time, I assume.
And full-time. So this is
All
secondary
right,
math and
next
science and
slide.
ECE.
You ready for the next one? Elementary school. Okay, again, huge area of vacancies and huge area of need. $10,000. We're going to increase it. It's currently at $2,000. And again, 2 years, installments, perhaps with Mr. Peace's idea. I really think that's sounding great. All right. Next slide. We heard in Dr. McLean's Superintendent Advisory Councils how the teachers that have been with us, have stuck with us, stayed with us, need some love too. It's so important. The ones that call Granville County Public Schools their home, have been here for years. You've already approved a really nice longevity bonus.
And masters.
And the master's pay. But what we are proposing tonight and recommending is that we increase our local supplement for all teachers, certified teachers, from 10% to 12%.
Yes.
For this school year and next school year.
Dr. Winborn, it might help to explain
Yes.
that all teachers across the state have the same salary schedule from the state. But then every district, almost every district, supplements that. So if the state salary is $30,000 for a position, every district gives a certain percentage of supplement. So right now in Granville, it's 10%.
Yes, thank you.
And we're proposing to increase it because these individuals have been faithful to us.
And again, this is in addition to all of the other retention bonuses and incentives that are in place.
Is this primarily focusing in on existing employees who have been loyal?
Yes.
Because I can see where you'd go to 12 and then Wake goes to whatever, and you just keep adding it up, you know, to the situation. So I think it is good to take care of our existing people.
Yes, ma'am. It is.
You're exactly right. This is for our school-based classroom teachers, the ones that are here. This is for them.
Yes.
And it is a bit of an arms race. I mean, like, you know, we'll go up to 12, but I think Wake is at, Chapel Hill's at 24 percent. Some just they don't give percentages, they give flat dollar amounts, but we're probably lagging behind a bit now with some of our neighbors with our local supplement. So you've got those three big areas where the data shows we have our highest areas of need, okay, that are really having a huge impact on our students to recruit new teachers. And then you have this in addition to the other measures that you've already approved to reward those people that are already here, to retain them.
So
All right.
this is a recruitment and retention proposal
And these are for teachers.
for teachers.
Is this the end of the proposal? I have some questions if it is.
We do have some other items to share, but if you want to ask specifics about these, now would be a great time.
I'll wait. Yeah.
Okay. So next slide, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Perry to walk through these.
Let's talk about teacher assistants for just a few minutes. So we are also, we have, kind of looked at teacher assistants and how, and the role that they serve and what they do. You have a general classroom teacher assistant who works under the supervision of a teacher, maybe a kindergarten teacher assistant who works, like I said, under direct supervision of a teacher. And then there's some teacher assistants who are providing actual instruction, grading, lesson planning, communicating with parents, unlike a traditional classroom instructional assistant. And then there are some who are serving in roles such as our Exceptional Children's Department and at Phoenix Academy, our alternative program, where there may be some risk that may be involved in those positions, whereas you may have some students who may have some uncontrollable behaviors, and folks may be getting injured because of some kicking or biting or whatnot. And then there's some students, some TAs or classified employees who serve as deans of students or ISS coordinators who are providing more intensive layers of work than a general classroom TA. Not saying that our general classroom TAs are not working. I want to make sure I'm clear on that to the general public. They're very much appreciated, but these are a different level there's a different level of responsibility for these individuals. So we're looking at a TA1, which is a grade 56. That is our standard TA, which is, as I say, works alongside a classroom teacher. And then there's a TA2 who provides a more comprehensive level of work inside of that classroom each and every day, and some of them who may not work under the direct supervision of a teacher. For example, your deans of students, your Phoenix Academy classroom facilitators, and those classroom facilitators who are serving at Phoenix and ECTAs. TAs who sub in a classroom also earn what's called a beginning teacher rate. So those classroom teachers are compensated at a higher rate when the teacher is absent. These individuals may not be able to serve in that capacity. If, say, for example, if you are the art encore teacher, you're with those kids every day, you don't have an opportunity to sub in a different classroom if the teacher is absent. So they're not eligible to earn that beginning teacher rate. All right, any questions regarding that? And we want to make that effective with the December pay and not retroactive. Just for the process, because we have to change some things in our system to make sure folks can be compensated accordingly for that. Next slide. We've talked a lot about our virtual classroom instruction that's been going on with Elevate K-12, with Edgenuity. We also are looking at increasing our classroom facilitator compensation. These classroom facilitators are putting in grades, they're working with those students one-on-one, they're communicating with parents, they're doing all those things that we would require additionally of almost as a teacher in some instances. And most of them are substitutes, and they are serving as subs. So our non-certified staff rate for the virtual classroom facilities positions would be move up to $135. That's $25 more a day than a general sub would make, because they're doing more than just a general substitute teacher. And then a certified staff person who is serving in one of these virtual classroom facilitator positions would earn $123 a day, which is $25 additional a day for them as well. And this we want to make effective immediately, retroactive back to the first day of the school year, because these individuals have been serving in that capacity all year long and have been performing those duties. We believe that it is clear that they need to be compensated accordingly. Next slide.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm really concerned about where this money is coming from right now. But we've talked through this a lot, and as you can see here, here's the cost for each of these individual strategies. And what you see here is the difference, because a lot of these are additions to what we're already providing staff. The hiring bonus increase for EC, secondary math and science, and for elementary. This is the difference. We know that their existing signing bonus is paid for with ESSER dollars, right? But this is the increase amount, and we expect that 1 year cost to be $152,000, 2 year cost $305,000. The increase of the teacher supplement from 10 to 12%. This is our big dollar item, because we're impacting 410 staff members. Those are our people. The 1 year cost is about $588,000. 2 year, that's almost $1.2 million. The TA differentiation, the TA1 to the TA2 position, we're estimating approximately 65 employees that this would impact, and that cost would be, the 2 year cost would be $257,000. And then that classroom facilitator sub increase, again, this is just the difference in what a regular sub makes versus this increased cost, and that 2 year cost would be $127,000. So we're looking at a total cost, a 1 year cost, a 22-23 cost of $933,000, but the 2 year cost would be just $1,866,770. And I don't know about you guys, but that still makes me a little nervous. But can you next slide, please? So where is that money coming from? And first thing you notice here is you don't see ESSER dollars, because our ESSER dollars are earmarked. We have plans for our ESSER dollars at this point. So we've been thinking creatively. We know that we have lapsed salaries. We've had an average of 50 vacancies since the school year started. Those are lapsed salaries, right? So, but we also have the costs of the programs we've put in place and the subs, the people who are working in the classrooms. So that's a net right now of about $400,000 that's available. Not a lot. That's not 1.8 million, that's for sure, right? But that is a piece of that pie that could cover some of that expense. Notice we have here fund balance. I just want to remind us that the recommended practice is to maintain approximately 8% of our operating expenses in fund balance. Remember, that's kind of like our savings account, our fund balance. Per the 2021 audit, we have approximately $1.6 million above that 8% that could be allocated. And we also know that in 21-22, we add it to fund balance. Note that I don't have a figure there because it hasn't been audited yet. But it's going to be around $1 million. And why did we have those? Why did we add to fund balance? It's because we had all of these vacancies. Also want to remind that fund balance is intended for emergencies. It's our rainy day fund. And as we have discussed, it's raining.
It's raining.
This is an emergency.
It's storming.
Any questions about the funding for this?
I do. I totally agree that this is an emergency. My question about the 1.6 that we, I guess, increased the fund through the audit and stuff like that, how much of that is adjusted because of ESSER funds and all that kind of stuff? Like, what's a standard amount that we can expect that fund to grow when we're not getting federal funds from, like, COVID and all that kind of stuff?
We generally, we do not plan for that to grow. We want that to stay in balance every year. You're right, though. It has grown throughout COVID because of all of this additional funding and because of the vacancies that we've had. So we don't necessarily expect it to grow. But we are also not required to maintain it in our fund balance.
But I guess pre-COVID, was there an average from like a 10-year period of time, like how much the fund, I guess, were we net positive at the end of the year at a consistent, is it plus 100,000 every year or something like that, or?
It varies. I can research that for you, but it does vary.
Okay.
There are years that we had to tuck into fund balance, and there are years that we added. But generally, that was staying even.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously there's emergencies, there's going to be ebb and flow and all that kind of stuff, but having like a standard year pre-COVID's estimate about how much the fund, I mean, we got to be mindful of spending, right? So like figuring out what that looks like year to year without emergency funds and stuff like that, I think I would be interested in that as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
So my question is, I mean, we're looking at the 2-year cost of $1.8 million. But now we've just increased all of the teacher salaries 2%, and like after that 2 years, I mean, they would expect that would continue on.
For the supplement.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, we have a lot of retention bonuses that are ending with our ESSER dollars, and that's why we kind of maintain that same timeline, because that is 2024 is when a lot of our funding all of this additional funding is leaving. And that's why we set it for the supplement as well. But yes, that's going to be a concern.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I don't know if this is the right time, but I've been thinking about it. So I did the math. That's that 2% is $1,400 per of the 410 employees. That $588,000 over the 410 is just $1,400 per employee. There's necessary. I mean, this is a massive problem. We need to make sure that we're retaining the teachers that we have. Is there like data available from counties that we can see which counties have the most effective retention rates for their employees, and then have we asked them about if there's any additional retention strategies that they might be doing besides this, whether that's a strategy, I mean, that we haven't added, if it's just purely dollar figures and we're doing the same strategies that they are, have we like asked around to other places?
I will say that we do meet other HR directors and personnel staff. We do meet with our colleagues around the state. We have a monthly call, and we all pretty much are doing about the same things. Some things are pretty generic, where we're all going to recruitment events, we're hosting our local job fairs, we're throwing out bonuses for employees. So I would say that we're very similar to what our peers are doing. However, our money may not be as long as some other places, competitively speaking. So we do try to get those best practices from our other peers. If they're trying something, just pretty neat, let's see if we can replicate it here. I will say that's what we did with our longevity. And so that's been a big hit. So yes.
Mr. Perry, if I may add just a little bit, what you're going to see in just a moment may not be best practice in other districts, but in our ambassador groups, we had some other ideas also come up that I think is worth giving some attention to as well.
Yeah, and that's why when I was talking, saying I had a question for Dr. Winborn is something like this. I didn't know if that now was the appropriate time for it or waiting till the end of the presentation. But those are my active thoughts right now. So.
Well, and I only say that because at this point we have a big problem, and I asked my team, And guys, you've done a beautiful job this evening. Thank you, because this is a huge issue. And what we don't want is for this huge issue, as my little guy at church says, to become a gigantic issue that we can't put the cookie lid on. What we want to do is to try something to see if we can get any traction at all. So what we're proposing this evening is a huge solution that ought to attract something, because we've never proposed anything quite this large, frankly, and we don't know if it will work. But I know what won't work is doing the same thing and expecting something different. That's what I'm certain of. So I'm a fan of doing something huge and different and seeing if we can get some teachers in our classrooms for our children, because time is ticking. The other thing is, what we're going to see in just a moment are some things, I'll say, that I think are also worthwhile. And some come with money, but some come with some creativity that I'd like for us to maybe go to now, if we could.
Next slide. So I'm not asking for a vote just yet, okay, but I just wanted to summarize what you've seen thus far that is here for action, okay? So this is our recommendation that you as a board would approve retention and recruitment incentives as presented for the $10,000 hiring bonus for those three categories, increasing the local supplement to 12% for our classroom teachers, increasing the compensation for those teacher assistants that provide direct instruction, increase the compensation for those virtual classroom facilitators, and then this would be effective as stated through up until the end of the 23-24 school year, as you inquired, Ms. LeBrecq. So we can pin that for a second, okay? We can come back to it too, but this is what we're asking for action tonight. Next slide. Here are the other ideas, and a lot of these have come, again, from Dr. McLean's superintendent groups. Time, the gift of time. Yes. Our teachers are under tremendous pressure. You know, there are many requirements at the state level that we simply cannot get around. We don't have the ability to take off their plate. But what we can do is look at the instructional hours in our calendar and perhaps, with the board approval, add some additional early release days in the spring, or maybe another teacher workday or two. Right now, for the benefit of everyone listening and our new board members, we satisfy the state calendar law by providing a minimum of 1,025 instructional hours in a year. All of our schools, we have more than that built into our schedules. So we have a bank or surplus hours. Right. And we do that because we have inclement weather and we have, you know, water main breaks or power outages, and we have to, you know, unforeseen things. But we might be able to dip into that a little bit. We can also, we've heard our middle schools in particular have a very long instructional day. And we heard from them in particular, and if you remember, based on the data, that grade span is taking a big hit. Yeah. Maybe we could shorten the instructional day, give our teachers a little reprieve there. Our teachers have also expressed the concern about their additional duties and additional requirements above and beyond just teaching their children. So maybe we could look at reducing these requirements, or maybe providing stipends or incentives or comp time for, you know, their extracurricular stuff that they're doing, leading clubs, athletics, et cetera, et cetera. Some options to consider there. Mentor pay. Our new teachers are assigned veteran mentors. These are teachers that have gone through some training and know how to coach along new people. Usually they're in the same building. They don't get compensated very much right now. We'd like to try to increase that. We also want to try to reduce any of the local requirements that we have on our beginning teachers. The meetings, the little extra things they have to do. You know, if it's not absolutely mission critical, let's try to take those things off their plate. And then you saw in my previous presentation, those district coaching positions have been a big hit. People really feel supported by them. So it'd be great if we could increase those positions. Again, that's a cost item. Finally, though, is the topic which was alluded to earlier, revisiting the reorganization of our schools, which is work that this board and previous board members that make up the current board have been addressing over the past 5 years. We could really increase the efficiency and ease the pressure on specific program area vacancies and lower those vacancy rates by school by consolidating. And I think, we've all seen that in the studies. Next slide, Mr. Connor. These tenets of efficiency when it comes to consolidating or reorganizing, looking at, these are not necessarily our recommendations, but these are some of the things that you have studied as a board previously. Looking at our high school capacities, increase it, making it more efficient would give you more honors and AP course offerings, increased elective options, and again, reduce the percentage of vacancies at each site, lessening the burden of the people in the school. We could look at 9th grade academies. We could reduce our elementary school footprint. We have GC Hawley's been an issue. We don't, all of those studies have been talked about and researched, and there's a link there for a reminder for the board to go and click on. Of course, that's your work. I'm not bringing any recommendations on behalf of our team tonight. I'm just saying that this could provide huge relief to this problem and this cliff that we face financially 2 years out. Ms. Hines put a little screenshot there. That's a graphic that many of you have seen many times before about held harmless positions from 20. But it started. You want to talk about that real quick, maybe, just to jog everyone's memory?
Absolutely. If you remember, while Beth Day was preparing the 2021-22 budget, with the reduction in ADM, average daily membership enrollment, there were certain positions that simply were not going to be funded. Our current ADM just did not support those positions. The funding we received based on ADM did not support those positions. These are clerical positions, custodial positions, assistant principal positions that are critical for the function of a school, but because we didn't have the numbers to support them, those were simply unfunded positions. And at that time, the board decided to hold harmless those positions and fund them in this interim period with ESSER dollars, with those federal COVID dollars. And it's those dollars end on September 30th of 2023. So effectively, at the end of this school year, those dollars end. So just wanted to keep that in your head as well.
And when Mrs. Day and I shared with commissioners, we could take care of those positions, but it was time limited. So if we're going to do anything with those positions, that discussion has to take place, because right now, after 23, there is no funding for those positions in any of our schools. So we just wanted to make sure that was back on the table. Questions for our team?
For those positions held harmless, do you recall about how many positions we were talking about?
Oh, yes.
Do you remember the number?
They should be right here.
It's very tiny.
It's small, but they're there, because this slide keeps me up at night, so they're there.
24.91 positions.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
16 are teacher positions. 2 are CTE. 2 are APs.
Go to that middle.
The light yellow.
14.47.
14.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually no teacher positions. That's right. Thank
But custodians and clerical are
That's
there.
right. Custodian, APs, 3.5 APs,
Mm-hmm.
clerical, 6.25, and then 2 instructional coaches.
Okay.
Thank you. So may we go back to the recommendation slide, please?
So, I guess we're waiting on a recommendation from us or a motion from us. Let me just say that, I'm just sort of blown away by the boldness of this presentation, really. In my years on this board, I think, a couple of $1,000s was a big deal. But anyway, we've sort of gotten beyond that. But I will make a motion that we approve the recommendation.
Seconded.
We're gonna vote?
Is there any discussion?
No, we're ready to vote.
Ready to vote.
Ready
Okay.
to vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so very much, board members. We're going to do our very best to try to get our children some teachers. So team, let's go. Great job, guys. Let's
Yes.
go. Let's go find them.
Go big.
This may not be the one nobody wants to answer here, but if we get in a situation where this is not working and we're not able to, is there a plan on how we might get a teacher in a classroom using another position, moving someone into a position that they're not in now? Is that been thought of?
Well, we could do that now, we just don't have people.
I didn't know about temporarily if you had a short situation.
Permanent subs, maybe?
I'm just thinking, we need to be thinking about.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so very much, board members.
On 901, safety grant update. Bill Graham's going to be doing that.
Thank you. Back again. Thank you, Madam Chair. I am bringing you information only and not nearly as heavy. I'm happy to say, I would like you to, it's with pride, I would like you to look at that slide. My wife is the PowerPoint queen, and she drills into me that you only have a few bullets on each slide. So I just want to go on record saying that I have actually done and she is great at teaching with PowerPoints. But some of these slides that have lots of things on them, you're not supposed to do that. But, ladies and gentlemen, I come to you with good news. This is, again, strictly information. It's just to share with you that we received the official notification from DPI 26 October. On behalf of Superintendent Catherine Truitt, it is my pleasure to inform you that the Center for Safer Schools Safety Grant Program has approved your application in the amount of $132,000 for school resource officers and an additional $115,000 for equipment. And that's just strictly information I'm bringing to you. That's very welcome news. Going forward, in terms of sharing more information, if we want to look at increasing things, we will engage with conversations with our friends on the commissioners and talk about what those contracts look like. So when we applied for the grant, it's very specific and scripted about what we can do and can't do, and we had contracts in place. And I'm happy to say that the amount that they gave us was what we needed, to fund those officers that we count on that are grant-funded positions. So the commissioners, the county does, generously pay for some of our officers. We as a school district pay for some of the officers, and then we have 3 of them that are paid through this grant. So I'm very pleased to say that that DPI gave us this money. the safety equipment that we applied for specifically at that time was for radios, because we have a great need. Dr. Winborn, when he first came on, made radios available, and now they're starting to wear out. They need to be replaced, et cetera, and the schools, the issue that the building principal has is they need that, and so they will call my office and say, can you fix this? Something it dropped and it's broken, or the battery's bad, or whatever. And our standard line, I'm sorry to say, our standard line is we purchase them and you have to maintain them. So this will alleviate that. So I'm very pleased. So this is information only, ladies and gentlemen, and it's a little bit of good news. So thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay, our next item is 902, our financial update on our COVID funds. Ms. Hines is going to be giving us that good news.
Thank you. The good news is you've already heard a lot about COVID funds tonight, so the information in front of you, again, that front page is a summary of our remaining COVID funds, just to simplify the information on the pages that are following. Over on the right, those top 6 funds are those funds that have expired. You've already heard about those funds. The remaining funds are you can see we have many funds that expire in September of 23 and other funds that expire in September of 24. We have approximately $15 million remaining. Okay. On the next page of the document, this is the state report that I'm required to share with you every month. The first section of the report shows the funds that we've received by program. And again, each program has a different purpose. Total expenditures overall, as of September 30th, were $11,887,247. Our total allotment to date was $27,092,908. The remaining pages, again, reflect those same expenditures, but by type of expenditure or object code. You can see on the charts on the last page that the majority of those expenditures are salary and benefits. That comes to approximately just under 73%. And the next largest expenditure is listed as supplies and materials, and that includes computer purchases. Are there any questions? Thank you. Thank you. I did want to give just a brief update regarding the budget. We, again, as Ms. Williams mentioned from the Finance Committee report, we are still waiting for those final DPI numbers, mostly relating to how our restart dollars are going to be calculated. Our restart budget is approximately 20% of our entire state budget. It is very difficult to move forward without that information because it affects so many things. So as soon as we get that information, we'll be continuing it with our Finance Committee meetings, and we'll present that budget to the board. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for all your hard work on that. Okay. We have now gotten to the point where we can take a 10-minute break, and I need a motion for us to go into closed session for the items listed. Do I need to read all of these out?
No, I think we can have a motion to enter closed session for the reasons listed in the agenda, but I'd like to add to discuss confidential student information in addition to personnel.
Okay. Do we have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Take a short.
Okay.
Would you like me to make a motion that we approve the classified?
Okay, we're back in open session, and we need to see if we have an motion to approve the certified and classified personnel report.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right. The only other thing we have is just to run over some upcoming events, announcements. The North Carolina School Board Association Annual Conference is coming up next week, 14th through the 16th, and I think a lot of us are going. Ms. LeBrec, you were coming one night, is that right?
I am going to try, but
Okay.
it is currently questionable as to whether that's going to work. Yeah.
I hope you can.
Yeah.
That's the 14th, we're receiving
14th
an
through
award
the
or something.
16th.
It's that Tuesday.
Tuesday
The award is
night.
Tuesday.
That's
Award-
yeah.
Award is Tuesday night.
Tuesday night is the awards gala.
And it's at 4:30, is that
it
right?
formal?
If I'm not mistaken.
It is informal, but there is a DJ and food and a bar, and it's a hoot.
Interesting. Okay. All right. The 21st, we have a Board of Education work session at Mary Potter, starting at 4 p.m. I do think we said the policy committee was going to meet before the, we're trying to get them knocked out at 2:30. December 5th, Board of Education regular meeting, and I think that meeting is where Ms. Hayes will be sworn in, so that seat will be changed. And we have a holiday social at Central Office at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on December 14th, and I believe that's where county commissioners will be invited. And the 19th of December, Board of Education work session at 4 p.m. here at the Mary Potter Center. Any other dates coming up that you can think of? There'll probably be some programs, so watch your email, different things going on through the holidays at some of the schools. And hopefully some of us will be able to get out there to a few of them, try to be supportive. Okay? All right. Does someone want to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Thank you, everyone, for your attention.